It all started with a trash can. Not a crime, not a scandal. Just a plain plastic trash can left on the curb a little too long. That's how my war with the HOA began. When I moved into Willow Creek, I was just looking for peace. After the divorce, after the chaos, I needed a reset for me, for my kids. The house was modest, but it had a yard, a decent school nearby, and a little bit of quiet. I thought I'd finally found a place to breathe. That was before I met Margie LaGrange. She was the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, clipboard in hand, fake smile glued to her face, and eyes like a hawk. She introduced herself one morning, standing in my driveway like she owned it, welcoming me in that overly sweet tone that always hides something sharp underneath. Her gaze locked onto my trash bin, already at the curb the night before pickup. "Just a heads up," she said, "we don't put those out until morning. Little rule we all follow here." I thanked her and thought nothing of it, until the violation notice showed up in my mailbox a week later. A printed photo of my trash can, circled in red, with a $25 fine for non-compliance. I figured it was an honest mistake, paid it, and moved on. But Margie wasn't done. The next month it happened again, this time for leaving the bin out too long after pickup. It had been a rough night. My daughter had a fever, and I didn't even think about it. His fine was $50. That's when I started to get suspicious. I called the HOA number and left a message, trying to get clarity. Instead of a return call, I got Margie herself at my front door. No smile this time, just that damn clipboard, and a lecture about upholding standards. I explained my situation, told her I was doing my best, but she wasn't interested. She didn't want to hear my side. She wanted obedience. Her words stuck with me. It starts with trash cans. Then it's broken fences, overgrown lawns. Before you know it, this place looks like a slum. I stood there, stunned, as she turned and walked off like she'd handed down a royal decree. From that day forward, it felt like I was under surveillance. More violations came, for garden tools being visible, for my kids' toys left in the yard, even for a slightly chipped fence board I hadn't noticed. It was always the same, no real explanation, no signature, just a printed citation. Shoved into my mailbox, I started documenting everything. I made a folder on my computer, labeled it The War, and filled it with timestamps, photos, and notes. I even bought a trash can storage bin to hide it from view. I tried to follow every rule, not because I believed in them, but because I wanted to prove how ridiculous it all was. Still, the violations didn't stop. Then came the bombshell, a formal letter taped to my front door stating that I was being summoned to a non-compliance hearing with the HOA board. They claimed I was a repeat offender and warned that further issues could result in a lien against my home. The only thing I had left after everything I'd been through. I showed up at that hearing, nervous but ready. Margie sat at the center of the board, flanked by 3 other board members who didn't look up from their papers. I tried to explain. I brought documentation, showed the changes I made, shared how some violations happened during family emergencies. Margie never looked at me. She just sat there, tapping her pen, smirking as I struggled to make my case. When I finished, she calmly announced, "The board finds your attitude toward compliance troubling." Then they voted unanimously to fine me $500 and put my property on the lien watch list. I left that room shaking. They weren't just harassing me, they were trying to destroy me. And I knew right then Margie had picked the wrong woman to mess with. Started digging, city records, HOA filings, anything I could find. Kept it quiet, even as the fines kept coming. I talked to neighbors, found people too afraid to speak up but who had stories to tell. Like Donna, an older woman down the street who finally let me in after I knocked for the 3rd time. She said Margie drove her son out years ago for parking his car on the street overnight. "She'll target you until you leave or go broke," Donna whispered. "That's how she keeps control." That's when I knew this was bigger than me. It wasn't just personal harassment. It was a pattern, a power trip, a reign of fear hiding behind HOA rules. That night, I created a new folder on my desktop and titled it Margie LaGrange, The Truth. I made a promise to myself. This wasn't just about a trash can anymore. I was going to bring Margie down. After I made that folder, Margie LaGrange, The Truth, everything changed. I wasn't just another tired single mom trying to stay afloat anymore. I was on a mission. Every spare hour after work, after dinner, after my kids went to bed, I was researching, compiling, connecting the dots. I combed through city ordinances, dug into HOA bylaws, cross-referenced everything Margie cited me for with what was actually written in the rulebook. And guess what? Half the violations weren't enforceable. Some weren't even real regulations. I found out the HOA hadn't properly renewed their charter with the county in 2 years, meaning they technically had no legal authority to issue fines at all. I printed every document, clipped every discrepancy, even saved PDFs of public meetings, where Margie signed off on new rules without proper voting procedures. I wasn't just holding receipts, I was building a fire. The final spark came from the inside. I got a call from a blocked number late one night. It was a man, older voice, nervous. Said he was on the HOA board. He wouldn't give me his name at first, but he told me he'd seen what Margie had been doing. Said she used HOA funds for personal errands. Even hired her nephew's landscaping company, charging triple the going rate, and passed it off as emergency maintenance. I asked why he was telling me. He said because someone needed to stop her, and she was starting to threaten people. I convinced him to meet me in person. We sat at a coffee shop the next day and he handed me a flash drive. "Everything's on here," he whispered, like we were in some political thriller. Financial records, emails, minutes from meetings, proof that Margie had been abusing power, misusing funds, and bullying anyone who stood in her way. That's when I knew it was time to go public. I didn't want to play fair anymore, Margie. Never had. So I packaged everything into a presentation. I created a website anonymous at first and uploaded the documents with easy-to-read explanations, photos, and citations. I even included links to the county records office so anyone could verify for themselves. Then I sent the link out to the entire neighborhood using the HOA's own mailing list, which I had conveniently obtained during my research. And just for fun, I printed flyers and slipped them into mailboxes, coffee shop corkboards, even pinned one up outside the clubhouse. The headline read, "What your HOA president doesn't want you to know?" Within 24 hours, it exploded. People started whispering, then texting, then outright confronting her. Someone posted the site on the neighborhood Facebook group, and it went viral locally at first. But then a local news station caught wind and ran a piece titled "HOA Tyrant Accused of Fraud and Harassment." That night, Margie tried to push back. She held an emergency meeting and went on some rant about misinformation and slander. But no one showed up. People were done being afraid of her. The board members started resigning one by one, and by the end of the week, the HOA was effectively leaderless. But I wasn't done. I filed a formal complaint with the county and handed over everything I had. It triggered a full audit, and soon investigators found even more dirt: illegal fines, fake invoices, and personal charges made with HOA funds, including a $600 spa day and a new phone she tried to write off as administrative expense. Margie was slapped with multiple violations and ordered to pay restitution, the cherry on top. The lien threats against me and others were ruled invalid, everything wiped clean. I walked past her house the day the audit results were announced. She was out front, red-faced, arguing with someone on the phone, papers in her hand, her garden sign crooked behind her like even it had given up. I didn't say anything. I just smiled and kept walking. A week later, her house went on the market. Word was, she moved out of state. Good riddance. As for me, I stayed. I was elected onto the newly restructured HOA board a month later, not because I wanted power, but because I wanted to make sure no one else ever had to go through what I did. Rules are supposed to protect people, not destroy them. And sometimes all it takes to bring down a bully is one person who refuses to stay quiet, so yeah. She tried to destroy my life over a trash can, and she made a big mistake. She underestimated what I'd do to protect it.